Three, two, one. Sheila, welcome to Dragon the Line podcast. I want to thank you again for joining us. How you doing today?
I am awesome, Jesse. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you inviting me to be here.
The pleasure was mine to have you here. Sheila, if you don't mind, let's start with your story. How did you get started? And most importantly, how's the journey been so far?
Whew, that's quite the question just to start off with, because this journey has definitely not been a straight line. I think there's a meme that I see on Facebook all the time. It's of a graph and it says where we are and where we want to be. And it's like what we think, and it looks like a straight line. And then it's what it really is.
There's a
And it's
curve.
all over the place. Like you got loop-de-loops happening. You got over in here and over there. That's the one that I've been on. And because I can't make some of the stuff up that I've gone through, and I definitely wouldn't have chosen it had I been given the chance. Oh, a little bit about me. Originally, I was a high school teacher. I taught high school math, pretty much, right? Like I had the answer for everything, or at least I thought I did. And there came a point in time where, I was just starting to get angry and frustrated all the time. And I was just like, oh, I'll deal with it later, and pushing it away and not really giving it any attention. And then and I kept having all these things coming up and little incidents, little events happening. As now I look at them and go, it was like the universe was going, hey, pay attention, look at me. But I kept pushing it away and going, no, I'll deal with it later, or whatever, until I didn't have the choice anymore. And unfortunately, that choice that I didn't have anymore was right after Christmas one year in 2010. My house got destroyed by fire. And I was already like at my maximum stress point and everything at that point. So when that event happened, my whole body shut down because I've been pushing and pushing so long and living with chronic stress for so long that my body went, I'm done. I'm checking out. Like, I'm not doing this ride anymore. And from that, I ended up being diagnosed with PTSD. I ended up going into quite a dark depression, dealing with anxiety, dealing with a lot of things that I'd never dealt with before. And I was trying to figure out, like, what do all these new labels mean that all the doctors and everything were putting on me? And that just made me angrier and more frustrated and more depressed and more anxious. And I was like, what the heck, man? This is not what I signed up for. I'm like, I'm a good person. I'm always helping people. And what did I do to deserve this? And I started really going into that deep woe is me and victim mode. And a lot of people I talk to say, you have every right to be a victim. Look what's happened. And I'm like, yeah, but this doesn't feel good. This doesn't feel like, this is not what I'm here to do. This is not what I want my life to be. I still have a lot of life left to live, and I don't want to be doing it like this. And it was about 6 months later, and I can't say it was not like a big thing. The clouds didn't part. There was no bright light. There was none of those kinds of things. But I just woke up one morning and this switch got clicked in my head. And I went, yeah, something's got to change. And that's something I'm pretty sure is me. Now, I didn't know what that meant at that moment, but that started my journey. It started me looking as to what else is out there? What am I missing? And I knew I didn't like where I was, and I knew where I wanted to be, but I didn't know how to build that bridge. I had no idea how to get there. And that divide just seemed so wide. And I just started looking and searching and trying everything. And a lot of people ask me, what did you search for? Honestly, at that point in time, my best friend was Google. I went on there and I just started Googling personal development, and I would see somebody on my news or Facebook newsfeed, and I was like, oh, who are they? What are they all about? And I would sign up for every webinar I could find or workshop or take a course. And I started trying all these different alternative health methods and everything until I found what worked for me. It's not going to work for everybody. Everyone's got to find their own path. But I started to find things that just worked, and I started to see little changes, little micro changes. And I think that's like the big thing is if you can start down that path and start seeing those little changes, they may not seem like much. 6 months down the road, even further, you can turn around and go, ooh, look how far I've come. It may not look like you're doing very much, but those baby steps really add up after a while. And that's what led me to where I am here, because now I go, you know what? Maybe I can help someone else do that baby step. Maybe I can give them a strategy or something that can encourage them in some way to take that different path, to realize that whatever they're going through, because life throws us a lot of different stuff.
Absolutely.
We're all going to go through something at some point. We need to know that we are resilient enough to get up and keep going And I had to learn that. I had to recultivate that because I think we all have resilience, but we forget. And it's just that rebuilding. And I thought, if I can help just one person to help them through their darkness and realize that there is that light at the other tunnel, may not be easy to get there, but we'll get there. And when you do, so much better. And so that's why I'm here.
Now, thank you for sharing that story with us. Your story kind of resonates with me, and the reason why I actually do the podcast. I always talk about I turned 40, and it's the new leaf. And what I like about it is that we both hit rock bottom. You actually lived it and you survived it. If you don't mind telling me more, whenever you were signing up for these classes, were you open to it, or did you feel like it was just drawn naturally to you?
Yeah, like it was, there's a quote, and I have no idea who said it, but it's, I think of now, it's when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And I think I knew I was open to something, like anything. I just need something, some sort of lifeline, like somebody throw me a preserver. And I didn't realize, a lot of them, I didn't know what I was in for. I went, oh, this kind of sounds interesting. Let's sign up for this. And I would go, and each one, I'll say not everything resonated with me in all of them, but I would take what I call little nuggets. And I would take a nugget here and a nugget there and just try to find the things that fit right for me, and say created my own path and just kept going with what worked. And I would start to see certain things that a lot of these different webinars and seminars and workshops and things had. And I went, okay, there's got to be something to this. Let's keep trying it. And I became like a voracious reader of personal development. Like I think my library in my office is probably better than any bookstore, because I have like literally everything in every subject in there. But I just wanted to learn. Like I wanted to be a sponge. I wanted to take it because this was all new to me. I didn't know this whole personal development thing even existed until this moment. And I'd heard of coaches, but I was like, what does that even mean? And all of a sudden, like you say, it was like once I was open, everybody I knew was a coach. It's like all of a sudden my Facebook news feed turned into this whole stream of coaching. And I'm like, where have you people been? But it's just, I didn't see it. And those answers can always, there's a lot of time, they're always right smack dab in front of you. But if you're not ready and not open to receive it, you're not going to see it. But the moment you are and you've made that conscious decision of, I need something, I need to change, I don't know what it is, or I want to search for something. It's like a veil gets lifted from your eyes, and all of a sudden you see things completely different. And that's what it felt like for me. It literally felt like this curtain got lifted from my eyes, and I was like, wow, okay, there's a whole world that I had no idea was there, and let's go explore that.
Now, how many years have you started in this industry?
Since I started that journey, so that journey really started, I'd say around the summer of 2011. So almost 10 years. But I haven't been coaching that whole time because initially when I first started learning about personal development, I went to coaches. I was like, okay, let's see what this coaching thing is all about. So I started hiring my own coaches, and I started seeing how they were a guide. They were my cheerleader. I could go to them and I'm like, talking about my frustrations and why this isn't working and what's going on. And they really helped me focus back into what my goals were. What am I looking for? Giving me insight into why I did the things that I did and why I was reacting a certain way, and maybe why things weren't working out. And I took that knowledge and really took it to heart. There's something I tell people a lot of times, like you can learn a lot of things intellectually, but you don't really learn them until you really internalize them and take them to heart. And I had to learn that, like I say, because I was a very analytical math science person. We live a lot in our heads, and I really had to rebuild that connection of into my body and listening to my intuition. I used to think intuition was only for special people. I thought that was a special gift that only certain people had, and I came to realize and still believe now that we all have it. We just end up getting disconnected from it at some point in time. And I had to rebuild that connection and rebuild that trust in it. Those gut feelings are there for a reason. They say we actually have more neurons and nerve connections in our gut than we do in our brain. And I think that's pretty incredible when you think about it, but everyone only talks about our brain. And so I really had to start to really listen to my body, what felt right, what messages was I getting. And that's, a lot of people go, oh, that's woo woo. That's all that kind of weird, crazy out there stuff. Maybe it is, but you know what? There's something to it. And I proved that to myself because I say I'm a science-based, factual type person. But I always did believe a little bit more on the spiritual side, and I had to connect the two. And now I feel like they're one that can't exist without the other. And I still feel like I have a long ways to go. This is not a one and done kind of thing. This is only the start, and I'm really enjoying this journey of learning more things.
Before we dive into the business of Ignite Your Purpose and what actually, because we haven't talked about what exactly you do, what's the difference do you feel yourself now since 2011 and now? Are you completely a different Sheila?
I am. I really, it was a 180. And being perfectly honest, I really didn't like that old person that much. And it's just because they just seemed angry all the time. And it was everything just seemed to frustrate me and irritate me. And I was really good at putting on that happy face. No one to look at me would ever know anything different because that face mask that I would wear all day always was smiling and happy. But the moment I would come home and close that door, I would take that mask off and it was a completely different person at home. Like I was just sad. I was lonely. Was feeling unfulfilled. I felt, what am I even doing here? What am I doing? I don't even know. And I wanted to, my goal was to connect what I wanted to be on like my outside world and my inside world. I wanted them to be the same thing. And I had lived in this kind of polar opposite for so long. I just didn't want to do it anymore. I was tired. Like I was tired mentally, physically, emotionally, and I just didn't have the energy for it anymore. I just wanted to figure out who I was and be that person authentically, whatever that meant. I needed to figure that out. And that was really where my journey started.
Now, can we shift gears a little bit and talk
You betcha.
about what kind of courses you have? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, like I say, when I started, I was like, where do I start? I did my life coach certification, was started looking at relationship coaching because I've always was big in relationships. Now, not just on the romantic side. And that's where a lot of people think, oh, relationships, you do couples. And I'm like, no, I'm talking about relationships in.
Thank you for clarifying that. Thank you for clarifying that because I thought the same thing.
Exactly. And I got pigeonholed and I'm like, no, I don't do like marriage coaching. I don't do dating coaching, anything like that. But when I talk relationships, the main thing with me is my relationship with myself. And that's not a relationship we are ever really brought up to think about or to cultivate. And it seems just weird, I think, when some people want to talk about it. But it's also the relationships with the people that I work with. What are my relationships in my family, my parents, the siblings? Because we know that those are all very different dynamics, but they all have an impact on us. And it was really learning what all those relationships, how they impacted me, but also how do I impact other people? And that's where the social and emotional intelligence coaching came in, because it really allows you to build the awareness not only of yourself, because there's two halves to the social and emotional coaching. So the one half on like the EQ, so the emotional side of it, is really your awareness of self. Why do I do the things I do? What are my strengths? What are some things that I need to work on? Because there's 26 competencies that make up the EQ. And the other half is the social part of it, where how does my behavior impact other people? Or how do other people's behaviors impact me? And how am I reacting to that? And human behavior has always been something that always fascinated me. Like I remember being way back in university when I was doing my degree in marine biology, which is completely different from where I am now. But I always took psychology courses as my arts elective because I always found human behavior and what goes on in our heads and why we do our things that we do so fascinating. Like we are fascinating creatures. We really are. And I think that we've only barely scratched the surface of what human potential actually is. But I'm seeing huge strides. Each year, it seems like we learn more, and we're learning exponentially now of what we are capable of. And I want to be a part of that. I love it. I think there's new stuff coming out every day, and that excites me and gives me more passion for what I want to do.
Has COVID actually helped your business and more people are asking for help because they just don't know what to do with working from home, or couples, or just self-confidence?
I'd say yes and no, because asking for help has always been hard. For honestly, across the board, people find it hard to ask for help. And so I was just making myself available for a lot of people. I actually, because so many people were, losing their jobs, things were getting shut down, they were losing the incomes, they had to still pay their rents, pay their mortgages, put food on the table. I didn't feel comfortable charging during that time. Thankfully, I was able to step away from that side, but I was still always available for when to be able to help talk people through a lot of the stuff they were going through. And I realized I can only do that for so long because, hey, I have bills to pay too. But right at that beginning, it was so hard because we're now in a world that none of us recognized. And I just didn't want to be just one more bill that people had to worry about. So like I say, I did step away from that side of things, still available, just not on the charging side of things. But unfortunately, I'm back to that. Like I say, I have to be able to still take care of my family as well at this point. But I think now that we've been in it for essentially a year, I think we just crossed over the 1 year mark of the main shutdown. I think people are now ready. I think they're more ready now to hear about things that we could do differently. Because, when we're in the middle of turmoil and chaos and everything, we can't think properly. I was thinking about this earlier for the, nobody's going to know this, but I was rushing to get here for this few bad traffic. And there's a possibility that I could have allowed myself to get really worked up around that because I knew I had to be somewhere. I couldn't get there. And when we're in that chaos and in that emotional trigger, our thinking brain, our problem solving brain, our one that's going to be able to ask for help because it'll recognize that we need help, sometimes can get blocked. That emotional side of things, or we talk about our primitive, our instinctual brain, that takes over, right? Fight or flight. What do I need to do to survive? And really, probably in this first year of the pandemic, that's where everyone has been. They've been in the, I need to do something to survive and I need to take care of my family. I need to do certain things. But now that we're in it for a year, that kind of an emotional block is now starting to ease. And I hate to use that term of the new normal. I really hate it because there are certain things I hope go away, but we're easing into it. Like we're creating new patterns. And I think people are now more willing to do the search. And so this is why I'm reigniting my business to get back out there and tell people, hey, you know what? There is light at that end of that tunnel. And you may not know what the answer is. And you know what? Most people don't, but that's my job. That's where I'm here as your guide. I am your cheerleader. I am what I like to view myself as the soft place to land in those times when you just feel like you don't have anywhere else to turn. And that's the one thing I really love about coaching is you can have somebody who is on your side to really tell it like it is. Where sometimes when we're with family or friends, because they love you so much, they want to protect you. And sometimes they don't want to tell you how things really are because they don't want to hurt your feelings. And I'm not saying I hurt your feelings. I don't want to make you cry. It's part of the relationship of coach and client is that we're very open with each other and very honest. And sometimes I find in that relationship, that's probably the most honest relationship that some people actually have. I have people tell me things that they don't share with anyone, but it's because it's that safe place. I'm not there to judge. I'm not there to shake my finger at you like mothers can sometimes do. I'm just here to listen and to guide. And I think it's a really important relationship for those that are searching.
In one of your interviews, something that stuck out was, why is gratitude the foundation of any transformation? Because when I think of gratitude, I think of first thing that pops in my head is being thankful for things. But we're talking about sometimes we don't acknowledge it because emotions get in the way, or we're so worried about us that we don't know that our feelings or our decisions can affect other people. Can you talk to a little about the transformation?
Yeah, when you look at things from a positive psychology aspect, gratitude is the foundation. That's if you're going to start anywhere, that's where you're going to want to start, right? Because that's you think of your foundation of your house, right? The concrete slab that you're putting your house on, that's going to protect your home. And we have to look at our homes as if they are my family, they are my career, they are my health, they are my relationships. That needs to be taken care of and protected. And I'm finding that over time that I've been doing this, gratitude really helps in that protection factor. Because I mentioned at the beginning about the resilience. And gratitude really helps with that resilience in that if I can train my brain, and I'll tell you, our brains are not naturally trained to look for good and to look for positive. Look, if you want to look back in human history, we used to live in caves. We were scared of saber-toothed tigers. We had things that were actively trying to kill us at every moment. We still have that DNA imprint within us. even though we're talking thousands of tens of thousands or whatever years later. And so when we go out and spend our days, a lot of times it's really easy to really take notice of the negative things. You have to actively work to find the positive things. And the more you make it the practice, the more you actively train your brain. Just like if you were going to the gym to train your muscles to be stronger, you train your brain to look for positive things, but you have to show it what that is, because it's not going to know right off. What do you mean by positive? What do you mean this is, what are you going to be grateful for? You have to train it. So it's going to be different for everybody. So when I first started this path, I was like, okay, what am I grateful for each day? Some days that was a really hard question because I'm like, I don't have anything I'm really grateful for right now, but there always is. And sometimes you have to search a little harder. Some days I just have to be grateful that I woke up that day, because I know if I wasn't there, somebody would be sad. And maybe I have to be grateful for, like today, we have a gorgeous spring sunny day out there right now. It's like, woo, winter is finally over. I can feel the warmth of the sun on me. I am grateful for that. I am grateful for the days that I can go to the beach and just listen to the birds playing on the air or listening to the waves as it's crashing against the rocks, because for me, that's a special place. Find those things that when you go and do them or you go and see them, they light you up. And you'll know what I mean when that happens. You'll feel that click of joy, that little warmth, that little smile that comes across your face. For me, it's going to Starbucks every day. I'm sorry, I spend way too much money at Starbucks, but you know what? That's something that's special for me, because for me and my partner, that's our date literally every day, because we both are very busy people. We have a lot of demands on our time, and sometimes that's the only time we see each other. And so that gives us our smile each day. We're texting each other first thing in the morning. Okay, when can we do this? And we plan that out. And we have that hour of time that's just about us. So find those things. And I like to call it my joy quest. What are those things that bring you joy? Is it music? Is it art? Is it reading? Is it, you name it? Maybe it's pets, maybe it's gardening. For everybody, it's different. Find those things, test them out, take yourself out on a date, because we're not supposed to be seeing people right now. Take yourself out, find something that you feel that gives you that little warm glow, and do more of it. So that way, every night, and this is what I would do every night, is I would sit and I would write in my book, and I made it kind of a date with myself. Before I could go to sleep, I had to write down at least 3 things that I was really grateful for that day and why. And the and why part of it is really important, because that's when you're evoking the emotion. So I'm really grateful for the sunshine and being able to sit out in it, because it just made me feel like spring is coming. It gave me hope that we're coming out of the cold weather. It made me happy. It made me excited for getting out in the garden, whatever it is. But really focus on the why part of things, because if you just go, oh, I'm grateful for food on my table. I'm grateful I've got a roof over my head. I'm grateful that I have clean clothes to put on. Great. But then that kind of sounds like it's a chore, right? To look for something that's grateful. And you want to connect it a little bit deeper. And when you can do that, it allows you to realize that, again, no matter what the world throws at me, if I can find something to be grateful for every single day, I know that I can come out of whatever. And it helps build that resilience in your brain. It helps build that resilience in your body. And that's why I think that, like I say, gratitude is really the starting point for any transformation. It's the only thing people do that.
It's when you were saying write it down, it stuck with me because I did a podcast and they wanted a bio, and I never wrote anything down. But last week when I wrote it down and I started reflecting on things that happened to my life, I started crying because I was like, whoa, I didn't know that this was the person that I was and this is the person that I am now. Words are strong. And I never knew that. Like, I was writing it and I was crying and I went to my wife. I was like, whoa, this is scary. But at the same, it was scary good. And so when you're saying that, as far as the gratitude, what would you say for the person that, like me, that doesn't like to write anything? Or you mentioned that I'll buy new shoes, that makes me happy. That's me. But like, how could one come to terms and admit, instead of coming home and saying, pushing it for the next day? At what point did you say, Enough is enough.
When I say write it down, it does. Yes, writing is powerful. And as a teacher, I always used to tell that to my students when they're writing. They're like, "Oh no, I don't need to write it down." And I'm like, "No, you need to write it down because it gets into your brain a little deeper." But I get that a lot of people don't like to write, and I never would want any of this to feel like a chore or feel like you've got homework to do. We're adults. We're beyond homework every day. But even if you're just sitting on the edge of your bed, and like I say, before you close your eyes, just run through your head, that this is what I'm grateful for and why. And if you just say it, even if you talk it out loud, no one's going to hear you. Or maybe you have a partner and you share it with them and you're like, "Hey, honey, this is what I'm really grateful for today and why. And what are you grateful for?" Make it a family thing. Get your kids involved. If you can start teaching your children to start looking for things to be grateful for in life, we are empowering them to have a way to control their world as well. Because when you look at all of the anxiety that a lot of kids are feeling nowadays, it's because they feel their world is out of control. And if you can show them that you've got this portion of your world that you do have control over, and that's our internal environment, everything, you can build resilient children. That's what I want for all of us, just to help build that next generation that's resilient.
It's powerful stuff. I could talk about this all day. I wanted to focus on you've written 2 books, right?
Well, they're not all mine. They're collaborative books. Yeah. So I
Okay.
have stories that are in there. Yes.
Okay. How was that experience?
It was quite incredible. And like how I said before, when you're ready, the teacher will appear. There was one year, it was, around New Year's. And I was like, okay, what's my big goal that I want to do this year? And I'm laying in bed while I'm thinking about this. And I was like, I would like to write something and be in a book. And I'm like, I have no idea what that looks like. I don't even know where to start. And I'm not kidding when I say this, that like literally 5 minutes later, I'm scrolling through my news feed, and I see this sponsored ad of, "Hey, have you ever thought about being an author? We're doing a collaborative book of inspirational stories. Do you have something you'd like to share?" I swear my chin like fell into my lap, and I'm like, "Are you kidding me? I literally only said that 5 minutes ago." And I emailed the person right away and I'm like, "Tell me what this looks like. What do we do?" It was the easiest process ever. I love the idea of collaborative books, just being that it's a lot of the work is taken out of it for you. If you want to publish your book on your own, do it. I have a couple books in me, and someday I will write them and publish them on my own. But it's a lot of work of trying to find all the, not just writing the story, but all of the business side of it. When you do collaborative books, somebody else is taking care of the business side of it. All I had to do was write the story. And so it was an awesome experience. I've actually done it 3 times now with that company. And it's not like it's not going to be a get rich quick scheme. I'll tell you that. You don't make anything off of it, but it's the idea that somewhere out there in some part of the world, my story is being read by somebody. And even long after I'm gone, someone will be reading my story and wonder, who was that person? So I view that as my legacy. I myself do not have children. And so when you look at, a lot of people will look at children as legacies. I'm not going to have a legacy in that way. So I need to find another way to have a legacy. And I looked at all of my students. I used to have 100 students a semester that I would be dealing with. They are my legacy. What they do, their ripple effect that they put out into the world is part of my legacy. And I looked at the stories that I've written and somebody reading them, that's my legacy. My podcast episodes that I have out there, they're going to be there for as long as we have internet. Those will be my legacy. So I just find that because I've always wanted to be able to help people in some way. And those are the vehicles that I have found. So if somebody has a story within them, find there's so many companies that are out there that are doing collaborative books. Find it. I think now, oh, I can see his face. I cannot pulling his name at the moment, but the Chicken Soup for the Soul guy, when he first started that was like the first time collaborative books really started happening, and they have just exploded. So that's what you want to do, find it, because it's a way to give a piece of yourself to the world. And it's really not that hard of a process to do. And it may get you to do your actual book too. So do it.
Now, I found this out. You're the only one who does OShift workshop. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I haven't checked recently, but I was definitely the first.
We're gonna.
Yes, I was definitely the first Canadian to ever be certified with the OShift. And I may still be the only one, I don't know. But, and again, I found out about this program completely by it. And I love it that again, when you're open, these opportunities do come. And what I would tell anybody, when opportunities show themselves, take them up on their offer. They may not work out, but they may work out. So go and take the risk. And this was one that I did. I ended up on an email list that I don't even know how I ended up on that list. I don't know how I signed up. And through this list, they're like, hey, we're going to give away this book. Sign up here. And I'm like, oh, cool. I love books. I signed up for the draw and I ended up winning it. So they sent me the book. It's called OShift by Jennifer Powers. And I started reading through it. And the strategies that it taught in there, again, it's all very emotionally intelligence based about managing our emotions and our reactions to the experiences around us. And I went, oh my God, this is exactly what I've been believing in. And somebody else has said it, so I must be on the right track. So I contacted Jennifer and found out that she actually had the certification program for it. So I went and I did that. And yeah, so now I have the ability to teach those skills and those strategies to people. And I used to mainly just do them in person. Can't do that now. But they were really powerful doing it that way, because we did them over 2 days, because there's a lot of information in there. And the transformations that I got to watch in the people that attended were, even me, I still like mind boggled at watching them as they're making all these connections and seeing how this applies to real life. And that's one thing I really like about, or what kind of like my value is in coaching. I want whatever I teach to people, something to be tangible. I want them to be able to see the results right away and realize that this is something that if they continue doing the process, it really sticks. And it's not really hard things. Like when you hear some of them, you're like, that's pretty simple. And sometimes the answers are really simple, but we have to be willing to do them. And it talks about consistency, right? It's not a one and done. And this is something that you have to consistently, again, be training your way we train our body. If we're going to learn how to play a guitar, we have to constantly be doing it to get really good. When you are training ourselves and building the resilience and really learning how to manage our emotions so that we can react in a more positive way, so that we can create better futures essentially for ourselves. It's training. You get better and better. You will not be perfect right off the top. I'll tell you that right now. I don't believe in perfection. It's a fallacy, right? And if we think that, oh, I have to be good at this right away, it's not going to happen. We learn self-compassion, right? Sometimes there are days where I forget all of my training. It's like my brain dumps it or blocks it away and goes, no, we're just going to do the instinctual primitive brain today. But that's a choice. And I'll be like, yeah, no, I want to be really frustrated right now. And I realize that I'm not going to feel good for the next little while because I'm doing it, but then I can shift later. And that's really what this is about, right? It's that choice. It's the awareness point of it. So if something is going on, you take a millisecond and go, okay, which way am I going to go with this? So today I'm stuck in traffic. Okay, which way am I going to go? Am I going to start honking my horn? Am I yelling at all the cars around me? Am I shaking my fist because somebody cut me off? I could do that. I'm going to feel really crappy in the moment. It's going to make the drive feel 10 times longer. Or I can crank my radio. I can start singing at the top of my lungs. I can open my sunroof so I'm annoying everybody around me. I can just have the little dance party in the front seat of my car. That's what I chose to do. And I can tell you the cars that were, because we were moving at a snail's pace, the couple of cars that are around me, I could see them watching me and they probably thought I was insane. But you know what? I maybe gave them a little giggle during all that. And I got home. I don't feel stressed. I don't feel all wound up about it, but that was a choice that I actively made in that moment. And that's what OShift is all about. I teach certain strategies that, okay, because when you look at OShift, a lot of times we want to say O and take the F out of that word. We say oh shit instead. The strategies that I teach, I'll start with F. So they're F strategies. That's why that F is a very important word in there. And yes, it's a little play on words.
OShift.
I got to think now how to go. It's giving you. I got to think now. I've completely lost my own words. Giving you the F in strategies to make a more positive day. But so there is a little tongue-in-cheekness, which I really love about the program because that's how I am. I have a really odd sense of humor. So we have a lot of laughs. But there's a lot of realness and vulnerability in it as well. And just this year, because like I say, we're in this pandemic world where we can't be in person, I want to bring it to online and do it just like we're talking here today, whether I use Zoom or something else, but I want to be able to see people's faces. I want to be able to connect with them still in that way, because the energy that we can share when we are doing this is powerful.
You're right. I was just sorry to cut you off. I
Yeah.
was just about to say that I feel like I'm in a session right now.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying it. For those who are interested, where can we find you, or where can we sign up for the classes?
So right now, because I don't have a date involved with it yet, but if you want to make sure you're in the know, on my website at reigniteyourpurpose.com, sign up for the newsletter. I promise you, I am not one of those heavy email users. I will not be in your inbox on a daily basis. That's just not me. But I will let you know when things are happening. If you have questions about something, or you're, hey, is this for me? I really don't know. Send me an email. So it's just Sheila, so Sheila at reigniteyourpurpose.com. Let's have a chat. I don't have a problem getting on here and having a quick chat with someone, because I want, if someone is going to decide to shift, I want them to do it because they know that's the best thing for them. I don't want them just to sign up because, oh, this looks good kind of thing. Let's have a chat. Right? Let's see if this is the fit. This is what are your goals? What is it that you want? And I'll tell you if this is something that's going to be a fit for you, because I'm not here to waste anybody's time or money. I want you to get the biggest bang for your buck. And personally, I think everyone could use it, but that's going to be his decision, right? Yes. And you mentioned like even social media, Facebook, Instagram, those are my two.
Real quick, I always like to confess, it's something that you said, actually, I'm going to take it to heart. You mentioned things happen for a reason and they come. When I started this journey, I would always say, coach is this, they can't help anybody. Speaking to you, you changed it. It's just, I want to actually tell my story. And at the end of the day, it is coaching. It's just the way media makes it out to be. And that was my takeaway of this conversation. There was many more, but I appreciate it. And I think there's going to be a lot of people that are going to enjoy your story. And just the whole time you were talking, you were smiling. So that just says a lot just from the bat, because some people, they'll talk about their background, but just, I could tell you were just being yourself. You could just feel it from what we hear.
One thing right now, one of the things that I can, and I say this very honestly, say, I am grateful for the things that I have gone through. Now, when I was in the middle of it, if someone would have said I was grateful for it, I would have had some choice words for them. But now that I'm on the other side of it, I am completely grateful, because it allowed me to shift my life. It allowed me to create, I think, the person that I was always meant to be. But I was so buried under expectations, different judgments, all the stuff that people just heap upon your shoulders. I've learned how to unbury myself from all of that. And is my life perfect? No. Do things still happen? You bet. But I know now that I'm in the happiest time of my life that I have ever been in. And when happiness is something that a lot of people really feel is hard to find, like they think they have to go and search for it, it's inside of you all that time. And I want to be able to help you find that, because I now know how to dig it out from us. And I would love to be able to do that with somebody else.
Thank you, Sheila. Before I let you go, I'm going to put you on the spot. Quick questions, quick answers, all right?
Yep. Oh, God. Okay,
All right,
we'll see how well my brain is.
Your go-to karaoke song.
Oh, God. And I'm not one for remembering the titles of things. It's by heart. I don't know if anyone would know that. They were out of Seattle like in the 80s. Nope, can't think of the name of it.
What is something you look forward to this summer?
This summer, I really hope to be able to get out and do some road trips in the area, because I love exploring, and I'm really hoping to be able to my partner and I are wanting to get a little camper van, and we just want to head out and see what we can find.
Okay. What is your favorite local spot meal that you get? Other than Starbucks.
Other than Starbucks, where else do I actually go? So for a meal, is that what you're thinking? There's an area, I don't know how why they're called Brown's Social House, but they have the best cauliflower. And I know that may sound funny, but they have this roasted cauliflower that is just, I love cauliflower now. Like before, it was just a weird vegetable, like you'd have to put cheese on it to make me eat it. It is amazing. I love it. And I will go there just for that. No, I don't know what they do with it, but it's amazing.
What keeps you motivated to continue life coaching?
Just the chance that I have the possibility to help people build a happier life for their future.
I like that. That's well said. And then the last one is, what projects are you working on this year?
Oh goodness, what am I not working on? Let's see. I started learning a new language just last night. I have a new certification I'm working on in neuroscience because I want people to be able to connect specifically what's going on in the brain with their behavior. Because again, just taking things to a new level. I have a lot of programs in my head that I want to get out to people that I think will really help. It's just the getting them online because I love being in person with people, and me not being able to do this is driving me insane because I love being in people's energy to be able to help them in the moment. And I'm learning to love this atmosphere. Gaelic. So because I am a heritage, I'm of Scottish ancestry, and my partner is actually from Scotland. Gaelic is the traditional Scottish language that is still spoken in a lot of parts of the country. So I want to be able to go back there and possibly go there to live someday. So it's not like you have to have it, but I want to be able to.
Thank you again for your time. I really do appreciate it. Was there anything that I didn't ask quickly that maybe you want the listeners to know?
I think the main thing I want people to know is when experiences happen in your life, you don't have to let them define you. Choose to let them propel you into something greater, because there's always a lesson. There always is. We just have to be able to take it apart to find it, and you will be better because of it.
Thank you again. Hope to have you soon rather than later.
Yes.
If you're ever in Austin, Texas, I'll show you some fried food. You come on down to Best Barbecue.
Texas.
Let me know when you're in Austin, Texas. Again, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.